All right, Devin, let's take a look at your paper. MLA format first. So this is good. This is all good, just like everyone else. Not sure how that's going to fit into the theme of your paper or the topic, so we'll look at that. All right, so you basically start with a straight up, quote of what PTSD is. Remember, we're going to start with an attention getter first statement, then expand on that attention getter, then kind of lead into this. In Macbeth, remember Macbeth is a play, so it has a special little punctuation to it. The character throughout the play, I don't know who that character is, has felt an enormous amount of helplessness due to this, such as killing his loved ones, family, and friends, not only physically but also mentally. Does that mean he killed them mentally? I don't know. That's a misplaced modifier there. You're actually modifying the wrong thing at this particular point. So you need to reword this sentence. This is where we run into problems, and we're going to talk extensively about this in class as soon as everyone's done listening to their paper. But you have plagiarized in this paper. These words are not your own. These words are not your own, and there's no quotes around them. There's no citation that you got it from another source, and so this is plagiarism. So anyway, we'll talk about that in class, but essentially these are still introductory elements. I think all of these need to be combined into one paragraph. So you're going to have to do that anyways and follow the order of what a paragraph should look like. All right, let's take a look at your next paragraph, which you're getting into like points about PTSD. Again, this is introductory level stuff. This should be long in the introduction. This is not how you would cite it. You'd actually get rid of all that. You just cite it with this first part here. And then you talk about how his mental health deteriorates after he kills King Duncan. All right, so what this paragraph really should be about is about the first symptom of PTSD that you're going to talk about. Now, up here you talk about psychotic spells and hallucinations, paranoid, fearful, and full of anxiety. He sees things, that's hallucinations. My point is, I don't know what your main points are that you're really going to talk about, and I'm not sure you really know what you're going to talk about. You say that his health begins to deteriorate. He is, quote, outside of the nourishing effects of sleep. Now, this quote, I've read Shakespeare, I've read Macbeth a few times, Devin. This isn't from Shakespeare. So it's not Macbeth quoting this. This is from enotes.com, which you probably looked up to kind of figure this out. So thank you for at least identifying that it's not your own words, but you need to tell me where you got this from. I need a source, an in-text citation afterwards, similar to this, to tell me where you got that information from. He lost all the comforts that humanity needs to survive, the ability to eat, sleep, peace of mind, the company of friends and loved ones. And then you go back to a quote from Act 2, but you just got done talking about Fleance and Macduff's family being murdered, which is way after this. So what does this quote have to do with what you were just talking about? And again, when I look at some of these quotes, Devin, all right, I just widen the aspect ratio here. Let me just give you some insight to being a teacher here, Devin. When I read a sentence like this, I immediately think to myself, wow, that doesn't sound like something Devin would write. Not because I don't think you're smart, just it doesn't sound like your voice. So this is the beautiful thing about Google Docs. I can go, I wonder what I can find on the internet. And lo and behold, look at this. You got all this from enotes.com. This is as simple as it takes for me to go through your paper and figure out what in here is yours and what is not. So as I start to look at some of these things, I start to go, wow, these are literally word for word from some other source. And so I know that they're not your own writing. So as I try to grade your paper and give you advice, Devin, the first bit of advice I'll give you is that you should make sure that you're using your own words as you write these papers and make sure that that if you are going to use someone else's words, that you give them proper citation. I don't care that maybe you didn't know where to go with this, and that you had to look up some information, but you can't just call it your own. And so as we look to the future, and as we think about this paper, I'm going to run through the rest of your paper. I'm going to try to give you some advice here on what to do. But for the most part, my biggest piece of advice is you need to have your own words here. All right, Devin, here's what I'm going to tell you. The rest of your paper is so disorganized and so plagiarized that I'm just going to give you kind of a guideline for the rest of your paper. So here's what you need to do when you go back to your beginning part. Okay, I already told you what should be in the introduction. You should have 3 or 4 body paragraphs. Okay, in every body paragraph, strong topic sentence. Okay, and every body paragraph is about one of the symptoms of PTSD. So you have one symptom of PTSD. You explain what that symptom is by using an outside source to talk about it. Then you tie it into Macbeth and how he had that symptom. Show me an example of how he had that symptom. Tie it into a thesis statement that explains why this symptom led to his downfall, and then transition into the next body paragraph. And in those body paragraphs, you're going to use outside sources, and you're going to use quotes from the play that are cited correctly as well. So you're going to do all of that in here. What you have right now in here is Spark notes after e-notes after random website of stuff. And to tell you the honest truth, it's not even worth me grading, because I know it's not your work. I know you didn't do most of this. So I am going to leave it at that. And when you get to the conclusion, remember your conclusion is you repeat your thesis statement, summarize your main points, and then have a clincher. So again, all this stuff that you're saying right here is not your own words. It's certainly other things in here. So I'm just not going to grade it right now, because I know it's not your words and your work. So works cited page, make sure it's on its own page. Make sure it's in alphabetical order by whatever the first thing is here. So in this case, you'd have to move Shakespeare down here, because the rest would be in order. This would be the next, this would be alphabetized before this. So Shakespeare would move down. So I'm looking forward to another draft, one that is of your own work, and hopefully we can rectify this situation.